Shane Van Gisbergen pulled off a save in Las Vegas that looked impossible, the kind of moment that should have turned his race into something special. But just seconds later, something small and almost invisible happened that quietly destroyed everything. He went from one of the best saves you will ever see to finishing dead last. So what really went wrong after that moment, and how did it all fall apart so fast? The race had barely settled in when everything started to happen. The field was still packed tightly, drivers were still fighting aggressively for position, and the air around the cars was turbulent and unpredictable. That is when Shane Van Gisbergen suddenly found himself in trouble. Coming through the corner, his car stepped out in a violent snap, the kind of moment that usually ends with a driver spinning helplessly into the wall at high speed. At a track like Las Vegas, once the rear of the car steps out like that, it is almost impossible to recover. The speeds are simply too high, the grip level is too sensitive, and the margin for correction is incredibly small. Most drivers in that situation lose control completely, but Shane Van Gisbergen did not panic. Instead of overreacting, instead of slamming the brakes or making a desperate correction, he relied on pure instinct and control. His hands stayed smooth, his reactions were quick but measured, and his timing was almost perfect. From the in-car perspective, the moment looks even more intense. The car snaps sideways, the steering wheel moves rapidly in his hands, and for a split second, it looks completely out of control. It is the kind of situation where everything suggests the car is gone, and yet somehow he catches it. He not only regains control, but also keeps the car pointed in the right direction and avoids heavy contact, continuing forward as if nothing had happened. It was the kind of save that immediately grabs attention. The kind of moment that forces people to watch it again, trying to understand how it was even possible. Fans, analysts, and drivers alike began talking about it almost instantly. Some described it as one of the best saves of the season, while others went even further, placing it among the greatest car control moments seen in NASCAR. Considering the speed, the angle, and the pressure of the situation, it is hard to disagree with that assessment. What makes a moment like this truly special is not just the visual drama, but how unlikely it is. At that speed and with that level of instability, most drivers do not recover. They spin, they hit the wall, and their race ends right there. But Shane Van Gisbergen kept the car alive, and for a brief moment, it looked like this could become the turning point of his race, the kind of moment that builds confidence and sets up a strong performance. However, what nobody realized at that exact moment was that the damage had already been done, and it did not come from the save itself, but from what happened immediately after. As he fought to stabilize the car, Shane Van Gisbergen dipped below the white line. It was a small detail that could easily be missed, but at a track like Las Vegas, even the smallest mistake can have serious consequences. When the car dropped that low, the underside of the front splitter made contact with the track surface. That contact caused damage that was not immediately visible. There was no dramatic failure, no obvious sign that something had gone wrong, and no caution that would bring attention to it. But underneath the car, something had changed, and that change would affect everything that followed. The damage impacted the balance of the car, and in NASCAR, balance is everything. A perfectly balanced car allows a driver to push, to trust the grip, and to maintain consistency. But once that balance is disturbed, everything becomes unpredictable. At first, the issue may not have seemed severe, but as the laps went on, the problems began to reveal themselves more clearly. The car became inconsistent in a way that is extremely difficult to manage. One moment it would feel tight, refusing to turn into the corner, and the next moment it would become loose, threatening to spin again without warning. This kind of behavior removes all confidence from the driver because the car no longer responds in a predictable way. Shane Van Gisbergen found himself no longer racing the competition, but instead fighting his own car. Every lap turned into a challenge, and every corner required caution instead of aggression. He was forced into a difficult position where pushing harder increased the risk of losing control again, while backing off meant losing valuable positions on track. Neither option allowed him to stay competitive, and slowly, the race began to slip away from him. As the race progressed, the gap to the front continued to grow, and the positions he had hoped to gain were no longer within reach. What had started as a moment of brilliance gradually turned into a long struggle, where the car simply did not have the performance needed to compete at a high level. The balance issues remained, the confidence never fully returned, and the race became about survival rather than success. By the time the later stages of the race arrived, Shane van Gisbergen was no longer a factor in the outcome. The damage sustained early on had already decided the direction of his race, and there was no realistic way to recover from it. When the checkered flag finally came out, he finished in 36th place, the last position in the field, a result that stood in complete contrast to the incredible skill he had displayed earlier. This is what makes NASCAR such a demanding and unforgiving sport. It does not always reward the most impressive moments, and it does not always reflect a driver's true ability in a single race result. Instead, it punishes even the smallest mistakes over time, turning them into larger consequences that affect the entire race. In this case, a brief moment below the white line, something that seemed minor at the time, ultimately led to a last-place finish. At the same time, this race also revealed something important about Shane van Gisbergen. The save itself was not just a highlight, but a clear demonstration of his talent. It showed that his car control, his awareness, and his ability to react under pressure are at an elite level. These are not skills that can be taught easily, and they are not something every driver possesses. While the result may have been disappointing, the performance in that moment sends a different message. It shows that he has the capability to compete at the highest level, and that with the right conditions, he can turn that skill into consistent results. Racing is not just about one moment or one race, but about learning, adapting, and improving over time. This race will likely be remembered for two very different reasons. It will be remembered for one of the most incredible saves seen all season, and it will also be remembered for how quickly everything fell apart afterward. It is a reminder of how thin the line is between success and failure in NASCAR, where a single moment can define the entire outcome. For Shane van Gisbergen, this experience becomes part of a larger journey. It is a lesson in how quickly things can change and how important it is to manage every detail throughout a race. With time and experience, moments like this can turn into stepping stones, helping build the consistency needed to win at this level. Because if there is one thing this race proved, it is that the talent is already there. The speed, the control, and the mindset all exist. Now it becomes about putting everything together over the course of a full race. When that happens, moments like this will not just be highlights, but part of winning performances. And that is what makes this story so compelling, because in one race, Shane van Gisbergen showed both the brilliance and the brutality of NASCAR, where one incredible moment can make you stand out, but one small mistake can take everything away.